this week's unboxing, we will be taking a look at the Revell Land Rover Series 3 long wheelbase or station wagon. Let's have a look at the general contents of the box first and then go over them in a bit more detail further on in the video. As you could already see during that quick glance through all of the parts, this is a pretty parts heavy kit. It has a lot of different sprues and pretty much everything included is detailed to the max. First off, starting with the engine. This comes in multiple components. This is just the first small sprue, and a lot more sprues will be added with many more parts to detail it out fully. They even added in the distributor, so you can just drill out some small holes in here and add some wires if you'd like to add even more detail to this already pretty full engine bay. From the main engine bay, we're going to move on to the chassis itself with a lot of the components for the suspension, even the drivetrain, the front and rear axles. I think this is the transmission, the exhaust of course, and many other parts all around. All of those parts of course need to be mounted onto something, and that is the chassis. In this case a ladder frame chassis if I'm correct, and many more parts to be added to it, like the shock absorbers, some more air vents, hoses, power steering pump I guess, and various other bits for all around, even the wipers, and I think this is the gear shifter, the pedals, and some seats for on the interior. And from the chassis, we're moving up even further into the interior. This is the main interior floor pan. It has a couple of parts for the engine bay, the front seat row, and of course the rear parcel package, rear the trunk, I guess. It isn't really all that detailed from the underside, but that is of course all done with that ladder frame chassis and all the separate parts you have seen so far. The door panels are separate pieces. It is one big piece with a lot of the details already molded in there. Doesn't really make it much easier, as I think this part here in the center needs to be body colored, and then this needs to be done in the interior color, and probably some more body color parts all over. Even the door handles and some of the latches are already molded in, so that will make it a bit of a challenge to paint it all up nicely, but nonetheless all the details are there. And if you thought that was already a lot of parts, we're pretty much halfway at this point. For the interior, you have the option to go for a left and right hand drive option. So you have both dashboard configurations, also for the transmission tunnel, which needs to be moved to one or the other side, and many more seats and benches for on the interior as well to completely fill it up and finish it off detail wise. From the interior, we're going to move on to the exterior. These are a couple of components for some of the roof racks and some other bits and bobs all around that I haven't quite figured out what they are for, but they seem very nicely done. On that first sprue, you already saw a couple of components for that roof rack. At least I think they are for the roof rack. On the second one, there are even more. Now this one is a little bit wobbly. I think it can pretty easily be straightened if you just simply cut it out of the sprue, but nonetheless, it is a super thin part, so it can fairly easily be moved around, and I don't really think it should be that big of a deal, but it is a bit of a shame that it is already warped in the packaging itself. And there's even more parts in here. I think this is more for the suspension and chassis, but again, not really sure. Could also be a front bumper. At least this is a bumper, I'm pretty sure of that. Not only does it come with a left and right hand drive dashboard configuration, you also get a couple of different versions for the exterior as far as mirrors go. Not really sure why there are two mirrors that look pretty much the same. The way they mount is probably different. These seem to go in the doors and these on top, and these look a lot more modern. Not really sure which ones I will be choosing if I decide to build this at some point, but I could also go an entirely different route and upgrade it with a lot of aftermarket components to make it into a more modern version of this Land Rover. Now for the exterior, we also have a set of wheels and a roof piece. This has a couple of the rivets already molded in there and also has a couple of mold marks, sink marks in there from underneath where you need to drill a lot of the holes if you decide to do it. Now this is for various different options, and I believe there will be more versions of this kit, so there are some other holes already pre-marked, but on the other side they are not completely drilled through. It is pretty flat, but as you can see, the marks on the inside did leave their mark on the outside as well. So if you decide to not drill any of these holes, this roof panel does require a lot of body work to get nice and straight. The wheels themselves, nicely done, no complaints there. Moving on to the final sprue for the exterior. This one has the main window frame in it, the firewall, I believe, for inside the engine bay, and the hood. Now again, same problem as with the roof. This one has some molded in detail on the underside, which is nice, but it did leave its mark again on the outside, so that does require a little bit of body work. Now then again, this is a Land Rover, and the panels do come pre-dented from factory, so you could just decide to leave it and get away with it no problem, as Land Rover does as well. Now that of course is up to you. So for the clear parts, there is a nice big package with a couple of sprues of clear parts in here. I'm going to leave these packaged up as I don't want to risk scratching them if I just throw them back in the box. A lot of the clear parts are pretty much the same, as there's a couple of windows for both left and right. Nothing to complain here, nice and smooth, super crisp and clear. And same goes for some of the headlight details. They are nicely molded in there, and various other lenses are included as well. Tires, there are no shortage of in this kit. There are of course 4 tires for the regular, at least this is the bare minimum that you would need for a 4-wheeled vehicle. I believe this is a spare tire for on the back, or maybe even on the hood or the roof, or looking at the box itself right now, this one is for on the roof if you decide to add it. As usual with Revell Germany kits, the decal set that is included is extremely high quality. No imperfections to show whatsoever, really smooth finish and super sharp printing as far as details go. You can zoom in even further and no details are lost whatsoever. And then finally we have the body. Now you did see a roof panel earlier that is supposed to go on top of this. It is an option, I believe, so you can just decide to go with this version and not add that other section on top of it. That one has a lot of the other options for, I believe, the front tire right here and parts of the roof rack. This one also has some holes already pre-drilled here for that piece to go on top of, I believe. But you could still just decide to fill those up and run it like this. All the other panels are nice and smooth. It has a bit of detail around the door handles right here. Smooth and sharp panel lines all over. No complaints whatsoever. They are nice, deep and wide, so they don't really need all that much touching up. If you are interested in purchasing this kit or many others, feel free to check out my webshop, thescalemodelingchannel.com. I will be leaving links in the description down below if you're interested.